last class we talked about density and salt water. Can anybody tell me one fact that they remember? Either about what density is, how much salt water we have on Earth, anything you know.
80% of the water on Earth is salt water.
It is. Is it 80 or did we talk about a little bit more? They changed it. It used to be 80, but we talked about now it's 95% of the Earth is covered in salt water. Where is most of that salt water located?
Oceans.
Oceans. Good. And what about density? Does anyone have a definition of density that we talked about?
How much is it, like kind of like how much mass something has? How hard it is?
It could be. But density in water is how much substance is dissolved in water. So in this case, we're going to do a little science experiment with salt, water, and an egg. And we're going to see that salt water is actually less dense than fresh water. So usually I'd have them all have these in like just little containers so they could fill them in, but I just brought them in there. So I'm going to crack an egg in each of these. One of them is just to show you that the egg is going to stay at the bottom, and the other one we're going to mess with and do a little experiment on it. So why does the egg sink, first off?
It's heavy.
It's heavier than the water, correct. So I'm just going to have all of you come over and you can add as much or as little of salt as you want in this one right here. So Zach, do you want to start?
Sure.
Just make sure you save some for everyone else. Dump it all.
Yeah.
And it takes quite a bit of salt because remember there's a lot of salt in the oceans. And after we do this, we're just going to stir it a little bit so it all dissolves in the water, but we're going to try really hard not to break that yolk in there. Heather, do you want to come up and add some salt? What do you think is going to happen to the yolk?
It's gonna rise to the top.
We'll find out.
I spilled the salt.
That's okay. Lindsay?
God, luck on a trip.
Don't you spill a pail of salt on top of your shoulder?
Like in Dumb and
Rachel?
Dumber.
And if you ever do this at home, use warm water in your cups because warm water actually helps the salt dissolve faster.
The ocean's warm.
Does that mean I can dump the rest in? Yep, go right ahead. And we're just gonna keep stirring. Do you see the yolk at the bottom anymore? Kind of.
It's kind of in the middle though.
It is in the middle. So I think if the salt dissolves a little bit more, does anyone want to take a turn stirring?
I will.
Don't break it. We're just going to add a little more salt in here.
Holy smokes.
That's a lot of salt.
It does. It takes a lot of salt.
Oh, there it goes. Float into the down.
The more salt you add, the more that the egg and the yolk will rise. So if you add enough, it'll actually sit right on top of the water. And if you let this go and sit for a few days, the salt will dissolve completely and the egg will just sit right on top. So maybe we can put this aside, come back and see how it works. And this is a untampered with container and you can see that the egg still is at the bottom. So, what did we learn today? Someone want to recap?
Salt makes things float sometimes.
So salt is less dense in water, so it makes the water less dense. So tomorrow we're going to start something new and we're going to look at how water affects our environment.